Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. The world looks at the Middle East. It is a place with many problems and long fights. Right now, the situation is very tense. Many countries are worried. Recent events have made things very difficult. People are on high alert. This means they are very careful and ready for anything that might happen. The news from this region is often about conflict and danger. In the United States, President Donald Trump is in his second time as president. He is the leader of his country. He has a goal. He wants peace. He wants to find a way to stop the fighting and the tension in the Middle East. This is a big and difficult task. Often, the problems in the Middle East seem very hard to solve. The conflicts are old and deep. Different groups and countries have disagreed for many years, but sometimes things can change in surprising ways. An unexpected shift is going to happen. The usual fighting might stop, at least for a time. This is a big change from the past. It is not what most people expected. This story will tell you about this important moment. It will show how a significant ceasefire came to be. A ceasefire means that fighting stops between different groups or countries. It is a time of quiet after conflict. It is a chance for people to stop and breathe. To understand this ceasefire, we need to look at what happened just before it. There were actions that made the situation very serious and dangerous. The tension was very high. But these actions also, in a strange way, opened a door for possible peace talks or a stop to the fighting. The world was watching closely. News channels reported every event. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next. Would the fighting get worse, or could things become calm? The tension was high, but the wish for peace was also there. Many people hoped for a different future. President Trump's words and actions played a part in starting a new path towards calming things down. The idea of a ceasefire, especially between countries that have fought for a long time, seemed very difficult, almost impossible. But sometimes difficult things can happen. This story is about one of those times. It is about how a period of quiet began in a noisy and troubled region of the world. We will see the steps taken by different people and countries. We will see how messages were sent and received, sometimes in public, sometimes in private. We will understand why, at this specific time, stopping the fighting became possible, even if only for a while. This ceasefire was not something small. It was a big event that surprised many people around the world. It gave hope to many people living in the region and outside of it. It showed that even in times of great tension, peace is sometimes possible if people are willing to try a different way. The story starts with the world watching closely. It starts with the high alert and the serious situation. It starts with President Trump's hope for peace and his public calls for calm, and it leads to an unexpected moment of quiet in the Middle East. This is how the story begins, a story about a significant ceasefire. 2. Past actions and tensions. The United States and Iran had problems for a long time. There were tensions between the two countries. Things became more difficult recently. The United States military made strikes. These strikes targeted places in Iran. These places were nuclear facilities. This happened on a weekend. The U.S. strikes aimed at important sites linked to Iran's nuclear work. Iran decided to answer the U.S. actions. Iran planned its own attack. Iran targeted a U.S. military base. This base is in the country of Qatar. It is a very important base for the U.S. military in the Middle East. Many U.S. troops are there, maybe 10,000 soldiers. It is where U.S. air operations in the region are directed. Before the attack, aircraft were moved away from this base. This happened about 2 weeks before. Iran used missiles for its attack. Iran launched 6 missiles. These missiles were aimed at the U.S. base in Qatar, but the attack was planned very carefully. It seems Iran wanted to limit the damage. It was not a big, strong attack meant to kill many people or destroy everything. It was a careful action. The missiles were stopped by air defenses. They were intercepted, so no one was hurt at the base. There were no casualties reported after Iran's attack. Before launching the missiles, Iran did something important. Iran gave a warning. It told the United States and Qatar about the coming attack. This warning helped to keep people safe. It shows that Iran planned its response carefully. Iran said its actions were a firm and decisive answer to the U.S. strikes. This event was a military action, but it was done with care and a clear plan to avoid serious harm. This careful planning and the warning were important parts of this moment. The actions showed the high tensions between the countries, but also maybe a wish from both sides to control the situation and stop it from getting worse quickly. 3. President Trump's peace call. After the recent military actions, President Trump reacted very quickly. He chose to use social media to share his thoughts with everyone. He wrote several messages in a short time. His reaction was swift after Iran's response to earlier events. One of his messages was very noticeable. He wrote it using only capital letters. This made it stand out. The message said, "Congratulations, world, it's time for peace." This was a strong way to show he wanted the conflict to stop. It was a direct call for calm. President Trump also spoke about the attack that had just happened. He offered thanks to Iran. He wrote that Iran had given the United States a warning before they launched their missiles. This notice came early. The president said this early warning was very important. He explained that because of this warning, it was possible for no people to be hurt. No lives were lost and nobody was injured. He felt that the warning helped prevent any damage to human life. This was a major point for him. He also described Iran's actions in a specific way. President Trump wrote that Iran had now gotten it out of their system. This phrase suggested that Iran had finished its necessary response. It meant that their reaction was complete for now. He expressed hope that after this there would be no further hate. He wanted the bad feelings and actions to stop. Following this, President Trump made a clear request for peace. He wrote, "Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony." He was suggesting that Iran should choose a path of peace and friendly relations. He did not stop there. He also stated that he would enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. He wanted both Iran and Israel to move towards a state of peace together. His words marked a very important moment. They showed a big change in how things were going. Before his messages, many people expected more fighting. Tensions were extremely high, but President Trump's tone was different. He did not talk about striking back. Instead, his messages sounded like he was ready to declare this over. He seemed willing to stop the cycle of action and reaction. For the United States and President Trump, this outcome was seen as very good. It was described as a best-case scenario in many ways. The situation did not get worse, which was a great relief. There was a feeling of great relief inside the White House after the attack and the president's response. The careful way Iran acted by giving a warning and President Trump's quick call for peace helped to change the direction of events. This moment began a move towards making things calmer. It opened the chance for talks about peace instead of more conflict. His call for peace was a key first step in this new direction. 4. The ceasefire idea grows. After the events between the United States and Iran, President Trump spoke about peace. His words were clear. He hoped for an end to fighting and for peace in the region. This idea of peace started to grow bigger. People began to think about peace not just between America and Iran, but also between other countries that had problems. A main focus became the long-standing difficulties between Iran and Israel. Could the idea of a ceasefire include these two nations? The idea of a wider peace started to spread. It was not clear how this happened at first. Maybe there were quiet talks between different groups. Perhaps other countries helped to share messages and ideas. These talks were not public. They happened away from the news and the world's eyes. As the idea grew, there was some confusion. People heard different things about possible peace plans. There were reports about a ceasefire, but the details were not clear. When would it start? What exactly did it mean? Different news reports seemed to say different things. This made many people unsure. But despite the confusion, the idea of a truce between Iran and Israel became stronger. It was a big step to even think about this. For a ceasefire to happen, the main players, Iran and Israel, needed to agree. Efforts were made to bring them closer to this idea. It was not easy because the problems were old and deep. Slowly, the possibility of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel started to look more real. The idea was no longer just a hope from one leader. It was becoming something that might actually happen. People watched and waited to see if this big idea for peace could truly grow and take hold in the Middle East. 5. Ceasefire starts. President Trump spoke. He made a big announcement. He said the ceasefire between Iran and Israel was starting. He wrote this on social media. He said, "The ceasefire is now working. Please do not break it." This was an important message. President Trump said the ceasefire should begin around 6 hours after his first message about it. This meant it would start close to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. When it was near 12 a.m., news channels started to report. News from Iran and news from Israel both said the ceasefire had begun. There was still some confusion about the exact time and small details, but the main news was clear. In Iran, the state news, Press TV, said the ceasefire was starting. They said it came after 4 attacks by Iran. Another Iranian news agency, Tasnim, also reported the ceasefire. They said it had entered its time to start. In Israel, news channels like Channel 12 and UNIT also had headlines. Their headlines said the ceasefire had started. It was now in effect. Iran's state news had said earlier that a ceasefire was happening. They said it was put on the enemy. But they did not give a clear time before. The Israeli government did not say anything official at first. They were silent. But the news reports from both countries were saying the same thing. The agreement was beginning now. This was the moment. After much tension, the quiet was supposed to start. The world watched. The ceasefire had begun as President Trump and the news reports said. 6. Why ceasefire can hold. Experts who study military actions looked at the new ceasefire. They talked about why it might last. They said it is possible the fighting will stop for a time. This period of quiet could hold. One big reason is what Israel thinks. Israel felt it had finished its work. It believed it reached its main goals. Israel had attacked important sites. It had also hit parts of the other side's defense system, so Israel felt it had done enough for now. It was okay with stopping the attacks. This made them agree to the truce. On the other side, Iran had its own reasons. Iran needed time. After the recent events, Iran had to think about what to do next. It needed to make new plans. It needed a period of quiet to get ready for the future. So a ceasefire was good for Iran right now. It gave them the time they needed. Because both Israel and Iran had reasons to stop, the ceasefire could start. And because these reasons are still there, the ceasefire might continue. It is a benefit for both sides for a short period. Israel feels successful and Iran gets time to prepare. This shared need for a break helps the truce stay strong. Also, the things that happened before the ceasefire were done carefully. The actions taken were measured. There were steps taken to limit harm. For example, warnings were given before some actions. This careful way of acting showed that maybe neither side wanted a full, big war. This carefulness helped the idea of a truce become real. It showed that stopping was possible. This careful way of acting before the truce is important. It helped create the conditions for the ceasefire to begin, and it suggests that both sides might want to avoid making things worse. This helps the ceasefire to hold now. Military experts see these points. Israel feels its goals are met. Iran needs time to regroup. Both sides gain from a pause in fighting for a while, and the careful actions before show a wish for less conflict. These are the main reasons why experts believe the ceasefire between Israel and Iran can hold. It is not certain and it might not last forever, but for now the situation gives hope that the quiet will continue. The time for planning and thinking is needed by both sides. This shared need is a strong support for the truce. The hope is that this period of peace will last as long as possible. It stops more fighting and saves lives. 7. Early days of ceasefire. The ceasefire began just as planned. After a long time of fighting and high tension, a new quiet came over the region. In the first hours, the silence was very noticeable. It felt strange for many people. The usual sounds of potential conflict were gone. People stayed inside at first, watching their televisions and phones. They wanted to know if the peace was real. Everyone was watching carefully. There was a feeling of uncertainty, but also a small feeling of relief. President Trump spoke about the ceasefire again. He used strong words to say that the peace must continue. He wrote a clear message telling everyone that the ceasefire was now working. He told all sides, "Please do not break it." His message was important. It showed that keeping the peace was the main goal now. He wanted the quiet to stay. In the cities and towns, life did not return to normal right away. People were still careful. They went outside slowly. They talked to their neighbors about this big change. Some people smiled for the first time in a while. They felt hopeful that the danger was gone, at least for a time. But many people were still worried. They had seen peace talks fail before. They wondered if this quiet could truly last. It was a time of mixed feelings for everyone living in the region. News channels in Iran and Israel continued to report on the situation. They confirmed that the truce was holding. The air felt different without the noise of military action. Soldiers on both sides remained in their positions. They were ready if something happened, but they did not fight or move forward. The first day of the ceasefire passed without any problems. Then the second day was also quiet. The third day was quiet too. The first few days were very important. They showed that the ceasefire could work. It was like holding something very delicate and valuable. It needed great care. It could break easily if someone made a wrong move, but so far it did not break. The peace held firmly during these early hours and days. People began to talk about the possibility of lasting peace. Could this quiet lead to something more? It was still very early in the process. The road ahead was not clear and many problems still existed. But the most important thing was that the fighting had stopped. This was a big step. The world watched closely, hoping that the quiet would continue and grow stronger. The ceasefire was real. It was happening now. It was a time of waiting and hoping for a better future. A time of peace, but a fragile peace that needed protection. The silence was a powerful change after the loud time of conflict. Every hour that passed without fighting felt like a small victory. Maybe this quiet was building a little bit of trust between the sides. Or maybe it just proved that not fighting was possible, even for a short time. These first days were a test for everyone involved. Could this new quiet hold? Yes, so far it did. The ceasefire was in effect and it was working. There were no new attacks reported. No missiles flew through the sky. The soldiers stayed in their places, waiting and watching. This was the start of something different for the region. A time without conflict, at least for now. President Trump's message was clear and important: keep the peace. The people living there understood. This was a rare chance, a chance for a different kind of future. The first hours turned into the first day, and the first day became the first few days. The ceasefire held. The quiet was the most significant event. It was a time of careful steps taken by everyone. Nobody wanted to be the one to make a mistake and end the peace. The peace was new and not strong yet, but it was there. The fighting had stopped, and that made all the difference in these early days. 8. Looking ahead, the lesson. This ceasefire is a big moment. People around the world are thinking about what it means. Is it just a short stop in the fighting? Or is it the start of something new, a real change for the Middle East? Some people feel it is only a break. They think the old problems are still there. Maybe the fighting will start again later. They see the past and find it hard to believe in lasting peace. They remember many years of conflict and difficult times, but other people see hope. They believe this moment shows something important. It shows that even after much tension, it is possible to stop the fighting. It shows that talking or finding a way to communicate without violence can be very powerful. When sides find a way to step back, it can save lives and stop damage. The lesson from this time might be that peace is always a choice. Even when things are bad, leaders and countries can choose a different path. They can choose to talk instead of fight. This is not easy. It needs trust and hard work from everyone. This event teaches us about the chance for peace in the Middle East. For a long time, many thought peace was not possible, but now maybe people will think differently. Maybe this ceasefire can be a first step. What about the future? Ideas for the region include more talks. Maybe different countries can help the sides talk more. Maybe they can find ways to solve the old problems slowly, step by step. The hope is that this quiet time can grow into a longer peace. It will take time and effort, but this moment shows that stopping the fighting, even for a while, is possible. It gives a chance to think and perhaps find new ways forward. The world is watching to see what happens next.